A story that's gripped the nation took a dramatic turn last night as the husband has been arrested in the investigation of his missing wife in the Bahamas. 58-year-old Brian Hooker was taken into custody following the disappearance of 55-year-old Lynette Hooker. Now, this Michigan couple, known for being avid sailors, was en route to their yacht aboard a dinghy on Saturday night when Lynette allegedly fell overboard, according to what her husband told police. Brian Hooker said that his wife was taken out to sea due to strong currents, and he was unable to rescue her. Well, a recovery operation is now underway by multiple agencies, including the U.S. Coast Guard. And we bring in our panel of experts. Dr. Laura Pettler is a forensic criminologist, and Rob Chadwick is a former FBI supervisory special agent. Let me start with you, Rob. What is the first thing that investigators look for when they're trying to determine, what's going on in a case where there are very little clues?
Well, you hit it right on the head there. This is one of those cases that there are going to be very little evidence. So look at past history. Is there anything indicating, a significant argument, anything at all physically that would tend to believe that there was some sort of a disagreement, a plot, so to speak? And now, of course, we have the information from the daughter, who is highly suspicious, and it sounds like she involved herself in the investigation, which probably is why we've moved on to this much more significant development in this case.
Yeah, Dr. Pettler, Lynette Hooker's daughter, Carly Aylesworth, spoke about the case recently, and she referenced past problems between her mother and stepfather, which she thinks could have played a role in this disappearance. Let's listen to this.
It just doesn't add up why she was swimming away from the boat or why she had the keys. I have known past issues between them have not been good, so it's just weird that this is happening now. Okay, you said this was gonna probably happen and now it's happening.
So, Dr. Pettler, what do you make of those remarks?
So it's a very interesting pattern of behavior, but it's very common in the pattern of domestic violence homicide. So in cases like this, the victim often solves their own case simply by the history of interaction between them and the particular suspect, and in this case, it's her husband. And it's also true that homicide does not begin with the death of the victim. In cases like this, it sounds like from the daughter, homicide begins when the plan is initiated, and if he is threatening to throw her overboard in another prior incident somewhere, it's very possible that this was a planned event and he had to use things in his environment, which is very common in staged murder cases, to try to pull this off. Specifically the failure after she went overboard of the keys being in her pocket and him having to paddle. That kind of a behavior is very common in these kind of cases.
Interesting. Rob, what do you make of that? And what would be, if the plan begins when you start making the plans for, or I should say the homicide begins when the plans begin, what would you be looking for?
Well, Dr. Pettler is spot on. Like, these things don't just happen. If this was truly a premeditated case, there's plenty of precedents, other stories that would give plenty of sort of guidance to this. And I think it's really, it's significant to note that this, of course, happened in the Bahamas. The Bahamas are a former British colony. Their way of law, their system of justice is based on English common law, which is very close to ours. And so the fact that this person was taken into custody is an extremely telling development in this case. It tells me that they have more. Certainly, I would hope that they have more than they're releasing to the press right now.
Dr. Pettler, 4 days after his wife's disappearance, Brian Hooker put out this statement on his Facebook page, and it read, he says, quote, "I'm heartbroken over the recent boat accident in unpredictable seas and high winds that caused my beloved Lynette to fall from our small dinghy near Elbow Cay in the Bahamas. Despite desperate attempts to reach her, the winds and currents drove us further apart. We continue to search for her, and that is my sole focus. Thank you to everyone for keeping Lynette in your thoughts and for your support of our family during this difficult time." So when you hear that, read that, what do you read between the lines?
There's a lot to read between the lines. The first thing that jumps out at me, Edie, is the descriptors. He's using a small dinghy, the
Right.
high currents. He's wanting to describe it in great detail. And so a lot of times when people do that, we need to compare the way that they normally speak and to this particular statement and study if that's their actual idiolect. Do they really actually talk that way? Or are they just speaking this way because they're speaking to the press, or they want to keep the focus on the fact that it's an accident? That's what he's alleging. And the more they talk, kind of the deeper they get, because now he's asserted that this is an accident. So if they find evidence that it's not an accident, it refutes that statement, and that's in writing.
Rob, is that accurate? The more they talk, the deeper they get into it?
Well, there's no question there. Dr. Pettler's, spot on again, and is exactly why anytime you retain a defense attorney, the first thing that defense attorney is going to tell you to do is stop talking. Yeah. And so I tend to agree that that statement was clearly very crafted in order to assert that this was an accident. But again, it's one of those things where it's hard to imagine for someone's loved one to fall over, first to be out in those rough seas in this dinghy to begin with. But then if my wife fell over, it's unimaginable that I would come back to shore without her, or at least do everything I could to recover that person.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. It is a very interesting case, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about it soon. Laura Pettler and Rob Chadwick, appreciate your time.